Shalom and welcome to It's All About the Aliyah. In this program, we do our very best to bring you every angle, every facet of the Aliyah. If you've been watching long, you know that we've established the biblical foundation for the return of the Jewish people in the latter days. We've talked about the historical context, personal perspectives, and so much more. And today we want to focus on a personal perspective. We want to bring back a guest of this program we've had before. He was so much fun to have on. We have him again. He's an Israeli tour guide, and he brings his unique perspective on his story, his Aliyah, Nosson Shulman. Nosson, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
It's good to have you. As I was telling our audience, we look at every angle we can. But it's endless, because every individual has their own story. So there'll never be an end to this journey, the end to this story. But Ezra International has focused on bringing former Soviet Jews. We work in Europe, we work in South America, and normally work with the poor individuals who need our assistance. They need help with their documentation, the research, the transportation, the whole gamut that comes with that prep for Aliyah. Now, we didn't work with you. You had to do this on your own. I imagine that you had maybe others that you confided in, but I'd love to hear, and I think our audience would love to hear your perspective of your journey, your Aliyah.
Well, it happened very fast. And the last time I was on the show, I mentioned how I was at Masada back in Passover of 2009, around April time, and how we decided that I was going to make Aliyah, my wife and I, and I was going to go to tour guiding school, which is what I did. So for the next 3 months, there's an organization called Nefesh B'Nefesh, which only works with Americans, Brits, and Canadians. Okay. And they help you cut through the red tape to make Aliyah. It's a lot of red tape, but they make it a lot easier. They tell you the documents you need, and they really help you with the process. They explain to you the certain benefits that you get as an immigrant, which we'll talk about later, called the basket of goods. Mm-hmm. And they tell you about how they'll be there for you when you get there. And it was about a 3-month process. One of the benefits that you get by making Aliyah is the government will give you a free one-way ticket to come to Israel. And we had a return ticket. We never planned on staying for more than a year. Mm. So we decided that, we're going to have a free ticket back. We already have an open-ended ticket that allows us to go back to visit family, so might as well do it. And we went back for a month. And, we still had to cut through some more red tape there, but when I was able to get off that plane and come into Israel, it was a great moment. I still remember it, intimately.
Oh, I bet you do. So how did you prepare mentally for this? This is a big step. You're taking your life and moving it halfway across the world. What was your preparation process from Canada to Israel?
Well, it was not as much as you might think. I think by the point where my wife and I were at Masada and we said we were going to do it, and then a week later we just said that we're for sure going to do it. I think by then I was mentally prepared. It took me about a week to mentally prepare, and it was basically one thing that we wanted to do was stock up on certain goods at the time. Certain goods were harder to get in Israel at the time. So we did a lot of shopping, got things that we would need for life here. That was probably the more stressful part. The other, mentally, I was already there and I already had a plan. I was already enrolled in school and already had appointments with the government offices to get certain things. And mentally, it just felt so right.
That's good. It's quite not. I wouldn't say maybe unique, but quite unusual, because I think a lot of the people we work with, they come to that moment where they realize that their whole life is changing, and I think that's quite a overwhelming prospect. But it sounds like you were ready to go.
Well, one advantage I also had was that I was 22. I came to Israel 21. At this point, I was 22, so it was also you have people that come here and they start life, they already have kids, they have a family, they have to worry about schools when they get here. So we didn't have that kind of stress. We were able to, when I came to Israel for a year to learn in yeshiva or Torah studies, I'd already finished university. So I had that advantage that I was just able to kind of start from the beginning again.
Well, that's a great point, because again, a lot of the individuals we work with having been poor and lived in, let's say, for example, Ukraine or Russia, that's all they've ever known. And so it is quite overwhelming. So you had an advantage there. What about, you mentioned something about gift baskets. What was it like when you got to Israel? How were you treated? What benefits were there waiting for you once you arrived?
A lot better than I thought it would be. So certain benefits that you get, right? I told you get a free plane ticket, you get a free taxi ride home, you get a certain amount, a few $1,000s from the government, depending on your age. There's a scale they have and how much you get, but you get a free Hebrew class. I've always been very stressed out by bureaucracy, so I thought for sure, and Israel has a reputation for, I'll teach you a Hebrew word because it's a word that strikes fear in everyone, bureaucratia. Yeah. It's a frightening word. So I remember actually talking with the Aliyah counselors at Nefesh B'Nefesh and saying to them, I was very cynical. I'm like, is this really going to happen? Am I going to have to fight for these rights? I said, I kind of want it on a silver platter. And they said, well, you know what? Maybe it'll be a silver platter with some little bit of stains on it. In the end, it was actually a silver platter. There was, once we got off the plane and someone was there to meet us, and we were taken through security. And the security, I remember we handed our passport. We had a very stern-looking Israeli security guard, and was giving us an eye. And then when he saw that we were making Aliyah, we had a paper that we were making Aliyah. He has a smile. He forces a smile upon himself, but it was sincere. And he said, "Good luck."
A little ominous, huh?
Absolutely. I felt great. I mean, I still remember what he looked like. And then they helped us get, they gave us the VIP service, luggage, brought us to a taxi. They hailed a taxi for us, and the taxi ride was, I think we had to wait all of 10 seconds.
Wow.
And we got a lift. We got a lift to. It was interesting. We had actually been renting out our apartment for that 1 month trip to Israel. So for 1 month trip to Canada, we were renting out the apartment that we had in Jerusalem the year before. So we were staying at a friend's house, which, when you have 3 large pieces of luggage each, because when you make Aliyah, you get 3 free pieces of luggage each. Okay. And we went to a city called Beitar, which is in Judah and Samaria. And it was very hard to bring the stuff back later on. But I remember just coming out of the taxi ride there, and it was just bonding with the driver, bonding with, my brother. And I still remember that he was born in 1948, came to Israel in 1949 from Turkey. Those are the intimate details I remember because it was just such a life-changing moment.
That's fantastic. You know what? We're gonna have to take a break right here, but I'm already fascinated because your story is such an uplifting one, a positive one, and but I'm sure there were some bumps along the way. We'll come back and maybe we'll talk about that in just a moment. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're talking to Nosson Shulman about his journey, his experience in making Aliyah. Nosson, you hinted that your trip to the airport was quite an adventure. I know from traveling quite a bit. That air travel can be daunting. I mean, it can be stressful, tiring, all those things. That's just making a trip, a short trip. You were moving your entire life to Israel, and that must have added some element of challenge to this whole thing, was it not?
Absolutely. Generally, they have each of the main cities with a big Jewish population have their own Aliyah days. Like, let's say, in September 13th, that's the day where there's going to be an organized flight by El Al from Toronto for Olim. But a person that doesn't want to take one of those organized flights because they want to be able to take a flight, they want to be able to go at a time that's more convenient for them, has to go through New York. So the New York flight wasn't going. The Toronto flight, which was going to be about 4 days after we made Aliyah, wasn't going to work out. And we decided we want to go to. We're going to have to go through New York. Again, we have three. You're allowed to bring 3 pieces of luggage each. That's 6 big. Everything our whole life in 6 suitcases. So first we took a Greyhound bus, which I think is the first time I ever took a Greyhound bus in my life. And they made us buy an extra seat because we had more luggage.
Nice.
And so it was going to be a good 14-15 hour journey just to get to the airport. So we get to the American border, and we have all these. I said to the border security, I said, we have 3 pieces of luggage each. Can we just leave the stuff there and come and talk to you? So that raised some red flags with them, because they said, wait a minute, looks like you're immigrant. Are you planning on staying here longer than you're supposed to, right? By the way, you see, when you come in from, if it came in from Mexico, it might have been different, but coming in from Canada, it's somehow it's not as easy to cross. Yeah, so I said to them, of course I'm immigrating. And they started looking like, what are you doing? And I said, yeah, I'm immigrating to Israel. I showed them everything, and they said, wow, this is great. One of the security guards even asked me, tell me more about the Golan Heights. So, that part, it took a good hour just to get through that. Then we get to the airport, and we're exhausted by then. Some of our luggage is kind of exploding at the rim because we have so much packed in there. So we spent a good amount of money there's a thing in JFK airport where you can have your bags wrapped up in foil.
Sure.
And it's very right. And once it's wrapped up, it's very hard to bring it to customs. So then So we forgot what everything was in there. They did the Israeli El Al, even in New York, they had security members of the Israeli government there to check your bags, and they saw something that was a clock, and they said, "What is it?" And I legitimately didn't know what it was. I'd forgotten what we had packed. They said, "Listen, if you don't tell us, we're going to have to rip it all open." And it had just been a big process to get that all in there. And I just said, you know what? I was swaying. I was like, I said to God, please let me get the right words here. And then I remembered clock. And they're like, okay, fine, go in. And then that was another 12-hour flight. And, by the time we got there, we were exhausted, but it didn't matter because we were in Israel. And that's when the representative met us, and the Turkish taxi driver took us to where we needed to get to.
And now all is relieved. But yeah, that is an adventure. I can remember having experiences with El Al security in my life, so I know what that's like. I was asked one time by an individual to carry some CDs with me on a trip because he couldn't fit them. It was a full box of CDs. And the Israeli security went through every single CD. They opened every one. It was a full box, probably about 50 CDs. So I almost missed my flight. So I mean, I can relate. I understand, but
and they're very good at asking the questions too. Like they'll say they wanted to make sure, because at the time I was in yeshiva, so they'll say, "What section of Talmud were you learning?" And they asked it in a way that only someone who was learning in yeshiva would. They used Aramaic words and stuff. So on the outside, it looked like they were being friendly, just making conversation, but they were trying to make sure that I was who I said they were. They know how to profile.
Oh yeah, they're looking for inconsistencies in your story for sure. Well, so that I'm sure that made that landing and getting in with, as you said, your Turkish taxi driver so much more pleasant, because now the journey is almost over. The hard part was done. That's great. So when did you feel? I mean, did you immediately feel that you were home, or did that realization come later?
No, right away. It was especially hit home when the security guard told me, welcome to Israel. I felt a kind of, also with him, a strong bond. That was the only words he really said to us, but it was, no, it was, I just couldn't wait to get to Israel. And then when I was there, it hit me right away. And then when I got home, what really hit me was the being tired. We got up at 7 a.m, so I'm like, I'm just going to lie down for an hour. And then we wake up and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's just before Shabbat. And the stores are all are 5 minutes away from closing. And we had to go quickly and buy ready-made food. And it was a whole thing. And, we'd overslept. Then that night I went to the synagogue to pray my Friday night services, and someone said to me, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm originally from Montreal. I came from Toronto more recently." They said, "How long have you been living in Israel?" I said, "I don't know." I looked at my watch, about 12 hours.
But you're an Israeli. You're there. Praise God.
And right away, I was a citizen. Right off the bat, I was a citizen.
That's fantastic. Nosson, we're up against another break. We're going to pause here for a moment and we'll come back. We'll be right back.
Ezra International now has a brand new app.
Now you can connect with Ezra like never before.
Easily find all partner countries and discover stories behind the real people Ezra helps every day.
Access Ezra's 24/7 global TV network and learn all about what it means to make Aliyah.
And most importantly, it is now easier and more secure to financially help Ezra fulfill our global mission to rescue, return, and restore the poorest of the poor Jewish people to their homeland of Israel.
Download the Ezra app today.
Get it now on the App Store and on Google Play.
All right, welcome back. We're continuing our discussion with Nosson Shulman. Nosson, you described basically, it sounded like maybe your first 12 hours in Israel. You said you immediately felt at home. But of course, now life begins for real, in Israel. Can you describe it in a sense of, was it everything you expected? Was it different in some ways than you expected? Was it fulfilling your dream like you thought it would be? Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, even to this day, the euphoria of being in Israel still every morning I wake up. It's with me now, and it's still exciting. I've been now here for 13, 14 since 2008, so it's still very much with me. The process I thought was a little bit easier than I thought it would be, just because first of all I came in with the expectations of what, as I told you, bureaucratia, right? Bureaucracy. So I expected the worst. I didn't speak the language, but I knew that this is God wants me to live in Israel. This is where the Jewish people are supposed to live. And as I told you, I had to get some of the benefits that were coming to me as a new Israeli citizen. I went to the Ministry of Absorption to get the money that I told you about, and it was an hour, maybe an hour, the whole process, including the line. I was surprised. Went and got my citizenship card about 2 or 3 days after I came to Israel. Had to go quickly to the government office to convert my degree, which from the University of Toronto, in order to be able to. I needed a degree to be able to do the tour guiding class. So I had to get that converted, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. The hardest part, I would say, the most stressful, was definitely cell phones. Every Israeli has a cell phone story, like a horror story. Everyone's had a bad cell phone experience. By the way, since this was in 2009, since 2012, there's the monopoly on cell phones were broken. So today, the prices are you practically get a cell phone plan now in Israel for free. At the time, it wasn't like that. So everyone had a story where all of a sudden they paid $200, $300 more than they knew they were going to pay. But on the other hand, it was good because if you ever decided to wanted to go to a judge to appeal it, judge would probably rule in your favor because he had his own story like that.
I'm sure. I heard that Israel, at most per capita, cell phones in the world. I don't know if that's still true or not.
It's still true. Yeah. But today cell phone plans are practically free. You can. I remember when in 2012 when they blocked the monopoly. And they brought in all this competition. For 99 shekels, which about $30 now. For like $30, I had unlimited long distance calls to 52 countries, and now it's a lot cheaper. That would be considered expensive today. So,
That's
but at the time, that was definitely one of the more stressful aspects. I spent a lot of time going to, saying, why are you charging me this and all that.
Yeah.
Also, I went to what else? They give you a free Hebrew class. Every new Israeli citizen is entitled to a Ulpan, which is Hebrew lessons for up to, you have to take it within your first 18 months. And it's up to 5 months, the course. And it's very educational. I was busy at the time, so I didn't take as much advantage of it as I should have. And I regret that even to this day. Hebrew's okay now, but I mean, anyone who's watching this, who's going to be making Aliyah, definitely should take advantage of it. It's free. You get a good teacher, and you can, if you work during the day, they have them at night. If you work during the night, they have them during the day. So there's really no reason not to take it. Yeah. And I enrolled in my school, and within the first few months, I was definitely set up with what I wanted to be doing here.
Well, Hebrew probably wasn't as big a challenge for you with your religious training, was it? Than some. I mean, I imagine. I mean, I know when I've interviewed Olim that we have helped from the former Soviet Union, that to a person, they always mentioned that was their biggest challenge, was learning the new language.
Definitely, the way I learned how to speak Hebrew was by applying what I learned in the text to spoken language. Which to an Israeli, by the way, could be comical because you're using words that some of these words don't exist anymore. Some of these words are only used in biblical time, and Israelis like to, they like to tease, friendly tease.
Yeah.
So you have to go in thinking, it's all you take it with a grain of salt and know that it's all a good jest.
And eventually,
definitely religious texts. My background in it was what allowed me to learn it quicker. But if I stuck with that old pan, I would have learned it even quicker.
Yeah, I understand. You mentioned your work, or we talked about it earlier, and I know we have a little bit of time. We have about 5 minutes left in this program, and I'd love to talk to you more. We're going to bring you back because it's never enough to have you once, and we're going to talk more about the life, the challenges, the things that go on once you make it to Israel. That's the number one question that I get, and all of our speakers get when we're talking about the Aliyah, is what's it like once you get to the land? So I hope that you're answering some of those questions, and I think you are. I think for our audience to get a perspective on what life is like once you get to Israel. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was for those who want to make to go touring. I get calls all the time because I used to lead tours. Are you going back? Are you going back? And of course, the last 2 years have been very challenging for all of us, but especially I'm sure with the Israeli tourism has suffered tremendously. Are you hearing anything regards to that opening up, the less requirements for passport, vaccine passports and all those restrictions? Are you hearing anything today about that?
Definitely. I mean, I've already been getting people in the last couple of weeks. People are starting to contact again. Quite a few people. If they were to open the borders completely tomorrow, it would be back to normal. So the people are still interested. As of now, the only people that can, as long as you're vaccinated, 2 shots within the last 6 months or have a booster. Some say within the last 6 months also, or some say even if it's more than 6 months, no, even the government doesn't know. So I certainly don't know. So it changes all the time. And the rules are so unclear that you ask one government official and another one, and you're going to get different answers. But yeah, it's definitely going in the right direction. I mean, Israel itself is opening up more. They just got rid of the green passport, except for large venues like weddings, I think this week. Israelis can go abroad, even those that are not vaccinated can go abroad without getting a test at the airport. Okay. Once coming into the country, that might be different, but leaving the country, though practically that doesn't really mean anything, because let's say you're going to a country like the States where you have to present the test, so you have to bring it anyways. But it's definitely it's definitely opening up.
Well, that's good. It's moving in the right direction. And I'll be quite transparent with you. Many of the people that are contacting me have not been vaccinated, and they really don't desire to be vaccinated, and they can't wait to get to Israel. So many of them are waiting for all the restrictions to drop.
Absolutely, no, and it's it's definitely one of the issues now is that kids, they don't allow vaccinated kids to come in. Unvaccinated kids to come in, which is basically in most countries they're not vaccinating kids. So the Ministry of Tourism now is pushing the health ministry to say, listen, people aren't going to give their kids shots right now, and you have to make it easier. You have to, when you say you're opening up the country, you got to actually be doing it. And by putting rules in that the kids can't come in, so you're really excluding families. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, every now and then you get a new variant, so it's who knows.
I understand. It's been a complicated process. I know it's become very political, but right. I thought for my audience sake, I wanted to get your perspective on it, and for my own personal sake, when answering these questions, because we all those of us who love Israel want to get back, and regardless of their vaccination status, I think a lot of people would hope to be able to get there soon. So we just
absolutely. If I had to guess, I've never done an informal poll, but if I had to guess, probably a disproportionate amount of Israel supporters are not vaccinated. So it's definitely those that love Israel most. Or it's very sad to see that many of them can't come in because of their own, because they don't want to take the shot. So it's those that love Israel most are the ones who are less likely to be vaccinated. So it's an irony in a way.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and it's a personal conviction, and I've always believed that it should be a personal conviction. That's my personal belief. Yeah, but again, we won't get to.
And by the way, I never got vaccinated here, and it's we had corona, and but here in Israel, though, I would say more or less people are Israelis don't like being told what to do. So theoretically indoors you have to wear a mask, but what most people do is they usually keep a mask in their pocket, and if someone comes over that looks like he might give you a fine, you put it on, and so it's Israelis don't like listening to people telling them what to do, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think that may be true about Americans too, but well, God willing, we'll see what happens here soon, because I'd love to see us as many people get back as possible. Nosson, we're out of time. As I promised our audience, we're going to bring you back. We're going to do another program and continue our conversation about your personal experience in Aliyah and living in the land, because I think that's interesting to many. So we'll have you back real soon. In fact, we're going to just say it right now. We'll call this part 1. And we'll bring part 2 to our audience right away. So, all right, we'll see you soon. Well, God bless you.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you, Nosson. All right, thank you for watching. We're gonna bring Nosson back, and we're gonna continue this conversation. So please, if you've enjoyed this program, come back and watch next week's as well. Shalom.